just want to show you a few extra things that you can do with X references. So one of them, and just to step back 1 second, I'm still in my drawing 1 file, okay, and this is my XREF, it's not my original file. And one thing that I want to do with it is, as I noted, one task that you can perform with XREFs is that you can actually use them for updating your elevations, okay? And as I said before, you can copy your XREF as many times as you want, and you can rotate them, okay? And what this does is it only rotates and affects the XREF. It does not change your original file at all, okay? It only affects the XREF. So what I can do is if I have a specific place that I want to make an elevation of, okay, I can essentially rotate it to where I need to. So for example, if I want to maybe, let's make an elevation of this wall here, okay, what I can do is I can actually rotate my, and I'm just rotating by reference. And if I have my ortho on, it'll automatically snap to that ortho. And what I did is I just rotated by reference my XREF, okay, in order to get this wall straight. Okay, typically we don't draw elevations at an angle, okay, because it's much easier to do it at straight on view. So what I want to do is I want to start to create this elevation of this wall here, okay? And if I have multiples of these, you'll see that they take up a lot of space. Okay, so if I copy and paste it and copy and paste it, you'll see that it does take up a lot of space. So what I can actually do is I can actually use the xclip command, and it's xclip. I'm going to select my XREF. I'm going to hit enter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new boundary. First, I can create a new rectangular boundary, and I'm just going to make a window. And what this does is it essentially clips out this information, okay, in the view itself. And you can also do this with blocks, by the way. And what this does is it helps you to, basically limit the amount of information that's shown. So it makes it a little bit easier to start to work with, okay? If I want to turn my xclip off, I can type in xclip again. I can select my object, hit enter, and then go to off. And what it does is it gets rid of the xclip, and then it doesn't have to be a rectangular window, it can also be a polygonal window as well. So again, if I type in xclip, select my objects, hit enter, I'm going to generate a new boundary. Yes, I'm going to delete the old boundary, okay, if it asks you that. And then I'm going to choose polygonal. And essentially what I can do is if I turn my ortho off, I can be selective about the area that I show in this xclip. And when I'm done, I just hit enter, and now you'll see that I essentially have a polygonal boundary for my xclip. And I can click on that and I can stretch it if I need to include more information. Okay, thus being more selective about the information that I show. And again, if I want to turn it off, I'm going to select my objects, hit enter, and then just go to off. Okay. So what that does is it allows us to actually work with this XREF in setting up other drawings, and we're going to do that a little bit later on. But before we do that, what I also want to show you is, I keep talking about turning these layers on and off and using the layer manager in an advanced way. Okay, so I want to show you that right now and demonstrate that to you. So if I open my layer manager, okay, as I said, anytime you have a layer with the file name in front of it, okay, what that indicates is that's an XREF layer, okay? And I can't technically draw on it because I'm not in my original plan, okay? But what I can do is I can actually turn them off if I need to in order to select information. So for example, if I don't need to show the doors in this drawing, I can go find the doors and I can start to work with these other options, okay? I'm not going to get into these options on the end about the non-plot and everything, but what we're going to work with is essentially turning it on and off and freezing it or thawing it, okay? Turning it on and off does essentially the same thing. So if I click on that, you'll see that the doors disappear. If I click on it again, you'll see that they come back, okay? Freezing does the same thing, and if I thaw it, okay, they'll come back on. Now what this does is essentially they basically work the same way. Okay, the way that I've read and I've been taught about the differences between them is just in the way that it regenerates with, when you regenerate the drawing, these, I think if it's off, it doesn't, if it's off, it still regenerates in the background. If it's frozen, AutoCAD just skips over it. Okay, that's really the difference between the two. Now, I find that sometimes I can turn a layer off, or on, and I can't freeze it or thaw it, or vice versa. One of them usually works. Okay, what you can't do is you can't, whatever the current layer is, typically you can't, turn it on or off, or you can't freeze it or thaw it. It's one of those. So it's always going to give you a little alert if you do that with the current layer. Okay, but since we're not in the original plan, we're not going to worry about that because the current layer right now is 0. Okay, but what we can do is we can be selective about what shows and what hides in our XREF object. And you'll see that, again, as we go into paper space and start to set up our drawings. So it'll make a lot more sense when we start to apply it that way. Now, you'll notice that there's a ton of layers, okay? And a lot of times, if you have other XREFs in there, you're going to get more and more and more layers upon the layers that you already have in your drawing. So it adds up fast, okay? And so there's a bit of a faster way of doing this, okay, is that you can actually go up into your freeze and your thaw, or sorry, your freeze and your off, and you can just click on that button, and whatever layer, okay, you want to freeze, you can click on it, and it should freeze all that. Okay, same with the off. If you want to turn a layer off, you can click on it. That again is telling me that the layer 0 is current. Do I want to turn it off? Let's just say no. Okay, but it also does the same thing. Okay, so if I look at my layer list, you'll see that my doors are frozen. Okay, and that's because I used this tool up here to freeze it. So I can start to freeze and turn off different information that way. So I don't have to do it through here, which can get confusing and can take a while to find those layers. But what I can do is I can actually use the tools in order to do that for me.